The rain had just stopped when the sound of a fragile sob echoed from a small wooden house at the corner of an old neighborhood. Inside, a young woman sat in her wheelchair, staring at the front steps that separated her from the world outside. The steps were not tall, just 3 small slabs of concrete, but to her they looked like an entire mountain. She pressed her hands to her lap, feeling the weight of helplessness sink into her chest once more. Life had taken her legs, but worse than that, it had stolen her freedom to simply leave her home whenever she wanted. And on that morning, as she watched children running past her window with wet hair and muddy shoes, she felt more trapped than ever before. Before I continue with this story, I want to pause for a moment and ask you something important. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of humanity to change someone's life through even the smallest acts, then please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with others, and subscribe to this channel, I Am Kindness. Your support helps us spread more true and heart-touching stories like this one. The woman's name was Aisha. Only 2 years ago, she had been walking, laughing, and living without limits. But a devastating accident had changed everything in a matter of seconds. A reckless driver lost control and hit her as she was crossing the road. She woke up in a hospital bed with tubes and machines surrounding her, only to be told that she would never walk again. Her world collapsed. Not only did she lose her mobility, but she lost her independence, her job, and even her closest friends, who slowly drifted away when her new life became too difficult for them to handle. Now she lived with her younger brother, Hamza, in their modest home. Hamza worked long shifts at a factory, barely earning enough to cover bills and groceries. He was exhausted most days, but he never once complained, because deep in his heart, his sister's smile was his only source of strength. Still, every evening when he came home, he found her in the same place, sitting by the window, staring at the world outside. She longed for the breeze on her face, for the simple act of going to the small park nearby, but the cruel reality was that the house they lived in had no wheelchair ramp. Those 3 concrete steps stood as a silent prison wall between her and her freedom. For months, Hamza tried to push aside his guilt. He wanted to fix it. He wanted to build her a ramp, but he didn't know how. He had no money to hire someone. He had no training in carpentry or construction. And yet, one particular evening, when he returned home and saw Aisha quietly wiping her tears while pretending she was fine, something inside him broke. He could not watch her suffer anymore. That night, he made a silent promise to himself: tomorrow, no matter what it took, he would build her a ramp with his own 2 hands. The morning came with soft sunlight, and Hamza didn't go to the factory. He gathered every tool he could borrow from neighbors: an old hammer, a rusty saw, a measuring tape, and a pile of leftover wooden planks. He had no blueprint, no professional plan, but he had determination burning in his chest. He imagined his sister rolling out of the house freely for the first time in years, and that vision kept his spirit alive. It wasn't easy. As he laid the first planks, he realized how much he didn't know. His cuts were uneven, the nails bent as he hammered them in, and sweat poured down his face under the harsh sun. Some neighbors passed by and looked at him with doubt. A few even chuckled, whispering that the ramp would never work, that it was a waste of time. But Hamza didn't stop. With every mistake, he tried again. His palms blistered, his back ached, and still he kept going. He thought of his sister watching silently from the window, not knowing what he was doing, and he pushed harder. By midday, his arms shook from exhaustion, but the structure started to take shape. Wooden beams connected, nails held the pieces in place, and a small slope began to rise where the cruel steps had once stood alone. Children from the neighborhood gathered, curious. Some offered to hold the wood while he hammered. An elderly man brought him a better hammer. Slowly, the laughter turned into encouragement. People began to cheer him on. What had started as one man's desperate attempt became a small community effort. Inside the house, Aisha heard the noises but couldn't see clearly. Her heart raced with curiosity, but she didn't want to hope for too much. She had been disappointed too many times before. She thought maybe Hamza was just fixing something or helping the neighbors. Still, a strange flutter of anticipation grew inside her chest. As evening approached, the ramp was finally complete. It wasn't perfect, the wood was rough, the edges uneven, but it was strong, sturdy, and most importantly, it led from her front door down to the street. Hamza wiped the dirt and sweat from his face, his hands trembling with exhaustion, but his heart was filled with a kind of peace he hadn't felt in years. Then came the moment of truth. Hamza stepped inside and told his sister to come to the door. She hesitated, wheeling slowly, not knowing what awaited her. But when she reached the entrance and saw the ramp, her eyes widened, and her lips parted in disbelief. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she turned to her brother, who stood silently, his chest rising and falling with nervous anticipation. She didn't need words. The way she reached for his hand and pressed it to her face said everything her heart was screaming. With trembling hands, she pushed her wheelchair forward. The wheels rolled onto the ramp, and for the first time since her accident, she crossed the threshold of her home without anyone carrying her. The feeling of the breeze against her skin, the sound of birds in the trees, the sight of the open street, it was all too much. She cried openly, the kind of tears that cleanse years of pain. Neighbors clapped, some even cried with her, and Hamza stood there watching, knowing this was the moment he had fought for. That night, Aisha didn't return to her window seat. She stayed outside longer than she should have, watching the sunset, breathing deeply, feeling free. She whispered a quiet prayer for her brother, the man who had sacrificed so much to give her back a piece of her life. She knew it wasn't just a ramp. It was love carved into wood, hope nailed into place, and devotion built in one single day. But the story didn't end there. That ramp became more than a path for a wheelchair. It became a symbol of resilience, of family, of never giving up on the people you love. Neighbors who once doubted Hamza began asking if he could help them build ramps for others in need. Aisha became more active, joining community events, inspiring others with her courage. Together, brother and sister turned a simple act of kindness into a chain reaction that touched countless lives. And maybe that's the true power of kindness. It doesn't always require wealth, or skills, or perfection. Sometimes it's just the determination to try, the courage to fight for someone else's happiness, and the willingness to give your all, even if you fail. Because even imperfect acts of love can build perfect moments of joy. If this story touched your heart, I want to ask you once again, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to I Am Kindness. Every small action you take helps us spread these emotional and inspiring stories to more people who need them. Before we end, I have one special request. Please take a moment and comment below one act of kindness you have experienced or witnessed in your life. It may inspire someone else who reads it, just like this story has inspired you. Because in the end, kindness is not just about what we do for others, it's about reminding the world that even in its darkest corners, love still builds ramps, lifts hearts, and gives people